huge roaring fires to be lit in every room of the palace.
But although this made the royal servants so hot that sweat dripped from the ends of their noses and splashed onto the marble floors, the princess remained cold.
Her mother, the queen, instructed that the princess was always to be dressed in the heaviest clothes. And although every dressmaker in the land stitched and sewed their finest garments, and whole flocks of sheep shivered, fleeceless, out in their fields,
The princess remained cold.
One day the king announced that
Anyone who could find a way to stop the princess from feeling cold would be rewarded in any manner they chose, even unto half the kingdom.
People came from far and wide, carrying hot water bottles pumped with boiling water.
Or wearing bright copper warming pans crowned with glowing pearls.
They brought nightcaps,
nightgowns,
bed socks and sleeping gloves.
families emptied their drawers and chests of bed linen and blankets.
made their way healthily up to the palace.
But it was all useless.
The princess stayed shivering in her bed,
Dressed from head to toe in wool and fleece.
shawl,
Gloved,
patterned and scarred.
complaining of the cold.
It was nearing dusk one evening, and a stranger arrived at the palace demanding to see the king.
The man was dressed in black clothes and did not bow when the king entered.
He had hard grey eyes like polished stone.
I explained to the king that I knew magic, that I could put a stop to the princess's suffering. And if I was successful, which I was certain I would be, I would carry the princess back to my land to be my wife.
When the queen heard that the stranger was planning to take the princess away, should he earn his reward, she was unhappy and remonstrated with the king.
I am sure my daughter does not wish to be the wife of a man with stony eyes.
The stranger should have his chance. It is the price my daughter will have to pay in order to find one.
The man was escorted to the princess's bedchamber and stood before her.
I explained to the princess why I was here, and that I had hoped to win her, to be my wife.
The princess felt afraid, for the stranger had cruel eyes.
And even though I longed to feel warm, I hoped that this man would not be the person who would cure me.
How cold do you feel?
I should make it difficult for this arrogant man. I'm as cold as the ocean is.
The stranger gave a small smile and turned on his heel. He was gone for some time, and although the princess was still freezing, she was glad she had got rid of the proud man.
But no sooner had she thought this than he appeared again in her room.
He flung a huge blanket onto my bed. I gasped as the blanket swamped me. It was woven in blues, greens, and greys, and moved over my body in clumsy, urgent waves. It smelled salty and seaweed, and when I looked closer at its pattern, I saw that many fish swam in it, and dolphins leaped in its borders. There were whales in the blanket, and sad-sunken ships. There were octopuses and jellyfish. The blanket lapped at me, and I felt sick.
The ocean's blanket. Warmer now.
But the princess was even colder than before. I will not go with you, she thought.
No, I'm as cold as the forest is. The man nodded and left the room.
The princess lay in her bed, hoping she had seen the last of him. But soon enough, she heard his footsteps by her door.
He threw a huge blanket over me. It was coarse and spanky. As I tried to push it off, it scratched at my hands and arms, drawing blood. It was roughly woven in blacks, browns, and dark greens.
blanket clawed at her, and she felt faint.
Warmer now.
But she was colder than ever, and her teeth were chattering.
You will not win me, thought the princess.
No. I'm as cold as the mountain is.
The man looked angry, but he turned and strode from the room.
He was gone for quite a while, and the princess began to hope that he would not return.
But the hope froze in her heart as she saw the stranger enter her bedchamber yet again.
He threw a great blanket over my head. The blanket was so heavy that I could hardly breathe as it pressed against me. It was woven in many different grades and shot through with sparkling silver. I pushed against it with my hands. It was as hard as stone and jagged as rock, and my fine nails broke against it. I looked down and saw the pattern of sheer rock and glaciers. There were ice-cold streams in the blanket and dark ravines. Frozen snow heaped in its borders. The blanket bore down on me. I felt dizzy.
The mountain's blanket. Warmer now.
But the princess was like ice and shivered.
I will not be yours, she thought.
No. I'm as cold as the earth.
The stranger stared at her, then walked from the room.
A long time passed, and the princess prayed that he was gone for good.
But even as the prayer formed on her pale lips, the man stood there as before.
He lifted a huge blanket in his arms and spread it over me. I moaned as the blanket came down over me, covering my face. It smelled of dead leaves and decay. It felt moist and clammy. I pulled it from my face, feeling its soft, crumbly texture in my hands. The blanket was woven from the darkest brown. It was patterned with worms and spiders and embroidered with hawks and wolves. There were tangled roots in the blanket, pale, hollow skulls, and the crumbling bones of dead animals. The blanket clung to me like a shroud, and I felt weak.
The earth's blanket.